Response, yes. Yes, she did. And then one of the red team members was like, yeah, red team goes hard. So, moments like that, that's... okay, I've talked enough now, and after doing all that tech support on Sunday, my voice is shot, so I'm going to hand it over to Dustin, who's going to talk about history of Twitarr a bit. Okay, here's Dustin Hendrickson.
Hello everyone. So history of Twitarr. Back on the very first JoCo cruise, there was no Twitarr. They just communicated via whiteboards, like the big notepads with markers all over the ship.
Analog Twitter.
Analog Twitarr, yes. And some folks decided that that was difficult, so they built the very first version of Twitarr. There's, is it Grimoire?
Yeah, Grimoire.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a prehistory to that as well.
Go ahead.
So it actually started as, because most of what happened on analog Twitter was trying to organize people together, I wrote Cruise Monkey as a standalone scheduling app first. And then at the same time, as we're talking on the forums, the sked stuff was being picked up as well. So like, obviously multiple of us had this idea of needing to arrange, but like between the two, we kind of ended up with something that worked together. But like, yeah, but both of these things happened super early, and then eventually smushed together.
Yep, so that very first version was in status.net. It was an open source microblogging platform. That ran for, I think, a couple of years. And then for JoCo 3, Nathan Walker wrote was it 3 or 4? It was 4.
4, I think.
Yeah, JoCo 4, it's right there on the slide, I should read them. He wrote a version of the first custom version of Twitarr. It was done in Ruby on Rails. The website was part of the Rails templated app. It had a Mongo database, which had all sorts of problems. It was very fast when posting to it, but it would often be slow when reading, slow when reading, slow when updating, and occasionally it would lose content. Like tweets would just disappear sometimes. There were no moderation tools in it. It was very open. Anyone could register. There were no registration codes. It's just out there on the network, hosted on a laptop in someone's stateroom over the ship's Wi-Fi. Then let's see.
Also, if I can add one fun factoid, is that the Java versus Ruby comment earlier, it ran on JRuby. So it was both at the same time, so for whoever said neither, you are correct.
Yep, let's see. Where was I? Then there were also contributions to that server from Beth Gordon. Ben here contributed. Emily Oslos? I never met her. Goes by Wingar, and James Stapleton, or aka Taser Monkey, also assisted with that. In that first release, they just had the tweet stream and CMail. Then in JoCo Cruise 5 in 2015, they introduced the forums, and they added an API so that Ben was able to hook up his Cruise Monkey app and show a lot of the content.
Now we can finally have it all together.
Yep, so, yeah. More integrated environment. We're still here on the second bullet point of Twitarr v2 in Ruby. Let's see. Scrolling my notes. All right, so in 2016, the schedule was added to the Twitarr web and API server. So rather than it just being in the Cruise Monkey app and posted around the ship on board, people could now access it if they were using the web version of Twitarr as well. 2018, Joey Dockerized the server, which helped us simplify the hosting of it quite a bit. William Summers did a lot of work around the API in the database. He added soft deletion to content so that it gave us a little bit more insight into what was actually going on with disappearing content, whether like someone was trying to delete it or whether it was just being lost to the ether. It was being lost. Let's see, I also joined the team that year, just a couple of little bug fixes here and there. And then an interesting thing happened in 2018. We got our first troll on the platform. We tried to ban them. We banned them like 8-10 times, something like that. They kept creating new accounts. Remember, no registration codes. It took a long time to actually figure out who they were as well, because we had everyone was anonymous. You just picked a username, which is all, great, in the earlier internet. But when you're on a social media platform, you kind of want to know who people are so that people can be held accountable, especially in such a community-driven one. So halfway through the cruise that year, Home Office decided, this isn't working, it's ruining people's vacations, let's turn off Twitarr for the rest of the cruise. So we did. Lots of people were sad about that, and it really motivated us to build the moderation tools. Home Office suggested the registration code system, we implemented it. That launched in 2019. But it also led, that shutdown also led to quite a bit of turnover on the team. Like some of the older developers got a little frustrated with it and didn't really want to be involved anymore. That's when I took over main development of the Ruby server. I moved it off of JRuby and onto MRI, the actual Ruby. That nice performance boost there. Moved it from server-side rendering of the front end to a standalone JavaScript front end single-page application in Ember.js. It was already using Ember for some things. I would have picked React, but I didn't have a lot of time. So that was also another big performance boost. We got the registration codes were added for 2019. Moderation tools were added, more ability to ban users, more ability for moderators to go in and actually remove content, edit content as needed. We had a quarantine system set up with both temporary bans to give users a little bit of a timeout if they needed it, rather than fully kicking them off the platform. Just a cooldown. You were naughty, come back in 4 hours, sort of thing. They could still read the content, they just couldn't post. Let's see, what else that year? We had a lot in 2019. Ian Hickson introduced an Android client. Hixie. He wrote that in Flutter. Called it Rainbow Monkey. It was a really cool client, and I wish we still had it. Chall introduced the Kraken client that year. Let's see.
Having a good and stable API. I mean, we were all doing a lot more with it.
Exactly. Yep. Right, because thanks to that rewrite of the front end from rendered pages to JavaScript, everything on the server was now going through the API instead of it being a mix of just, okay, some back-end code is running and generating stuff. It was all in JSON now, so the clients could become much more full-featured. Let's see. And also that year, William Summers, Grundun, he started work on version 3 of Twitarr, which uses Swift and Postgres. And you'll talk about that more in a bit. So development started on that there. JoCo Cruise 2020, the database was migrated from Mongo to Postgres, so that was another very big performance boost, especially on the read side of things. And magically, content stopped disappearing. It's like, wow, use a real database, you get, your data is consistent.
They don't call it NoSQL for nothing.
Yep. Let's see, what else? In 2020, we added the karaoke list, and also 2020 was the final year of the Ruby version of Twitarr. as you all know, a lot of things happened in 2020. So 2021 was the virtual cruise. There was no Twitarr doing it. Everything was on Discord. And development continued on the version 3 Swiftarr. Also around that time, William unexpectedly passed away. We miss him very much. Amazing guy. And then Chall took over the development of the V3 server, finished up that work and got it ready for boat.
I was very glad that I had 2 whole years to do that, because it took all of it. That's it.
So yeah, and then 2022, folks came back on the ship, and so did the brand new version of the server. Version 3 launched. I should have advanced a slider on there. Yep, there we go. So yeah, and then here we are. Grant, Chall, Glenn, who is not on boat this year.
I manage the DNS at this point. Yeah, I'm here as a Twitarr emeritus.
Yeah, and Ben does a lot of support as well. And then Amy Tant has also been doing a lot of contribution, and a new team member this year, Dan Rosart. He did the puzzle hunt feature, which we have this year. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the history. Everything else is much more, present. So we give it over to you.
Yeah, I'm good. Sure. So now we're going to talk about where Twitarr is now and the features that it has. So a lot of you know some of these features, but I think that there's enough of them so that you probably haven't discovered all of them, and well, we have because we wrote them. First, we're going to get the stuff everyone knows about out of the way. You all know that it has forums. You all know that you can C-mail each other, which is basically group text chats. You may not know that there are private text chats where you specify up front who can join or who's going to be in it, and then after that you cannot add or remove people. And those are less moderated. So if you were at the Munch last night and you wanted to have a chat, the sort of chat that you have after the Munch. Thank you. Yes. This is the feature for you for that kind of thing. If you want to have a chat for like, I don't know, a board game that starts off as a 2-player board game, and then by the time you get halfway through it, it becomes an 8-player board game. You want an open chat because you can add people to it later. And so we had problems in previous years where people would like complain that they started a chat and then like someone was like, oh, I want to join that, and you can't. You had to start a new one with that third person, and then you do that 8 times, and you have yeah. So for chats where you think that you might need to change the user list, open chats.
Yeah, open chats are now the default. Yeah. The default used to be those closed chats.
Yeah. But you can report a closed chat.
Yeah, you still can, yeah. But I mean, moderations are going to be looser for stuff in closed chats. I mean, in open chats, there's also the fact that if you wanted to talk about how someone on the boat was being just really not nice, be careful about doing that in an open chat, because the person who makes the chat could then invite them and they could see it. Okay, schedule you all know about it. I'm not going to talk about it very much. Looking for groups. LFG is looking for groups. Some people had different ideas about what this acronym was, and it's not that, it's looking for group. For those who have not used it and have no idea what it is, if you have an activity that you want to do, you can say, I want to do this thing at this time. I need at least this many people, and you can only have this many people. For example, a board game that has up to 6 people. And then it's advertised on the LFG page. People can look at it and say, hey, I want to do that, and they join. The LFG automatically maintains a wait list, so that if more than 6 people in this instance want to do it, they're automatically waitlisted. LFGs also have chats, just like text chats, so that let's see, if you have to move your board game to another place in the ship because the place you originally had it was full, you can tell everyone. If you're going to be a couple minutes late, you can chat. You've got a chat for everyone right there. Stuff like that. You can talk amongst yourselves, for the people in the LFG. Next, new this year, PhotoStream. I don't know if you guys have seen PhotoStream. Many of you probably have, but don't know what it is. It is a communal, shared photo gallery. Everyone gets to see it. Anyone with an app can post to it. If you're using Kraken or Tricordarr, you can, and you see something cool on the ship. For example, if you're one of the JoCo photonauts who's in the room with us right now, with his very nice Nikon camera there, you could post to the PhotoStream and put up cool things that are happening on the ship.
Not from this, though.
No, not from this. You have to do it from your phone, yeah. But we designed this feature so that when something cool happens, you can post a photo of it and everyone can see it. So if something like Pushy Quarters happens again this year, please post it to PhotoStream so that more people on boat can know about it and come down and join in the fun of Pushy Quarters. Rest in peace, Pushy Quarters. Day Planner is new this year. Day Planner is a calendar style view of, let's see if I can get all this, schedule events that you have followed or liked, or the ones you want to go to, LFGs that you've joined, and private events, which is a new thing. I should have put this after private events. Private events that you are a member of. Private events. Hey, what are private events? Grant wrote private events. Thank you, Grant. And private events are let's say you're doing a dinner with some friends on the boat. You all have friends on the boat, right? Yeah, so if you go to do a dinner with them, you can reserve with Hal, which will take you 15 minutes because Holland America line. Hi, Holland America people, hi. Then you put everyone who's going into the private event and the time, and it shows up in all of their calendars. So you can invite them, and it shows up in everybody's calendars. Plus, you all get a text chat for the people who are going to the dinner. So you can all talk to each other about your dinner, and if you're going to be late, you can take photos of your food and post them to your shared dinner chat. I'm not sure why you do that, but you can. But you can use it for other private events as well. That's the feature. It's really cool. Please use it. I've got like 4 dinners already and some other private events. It's great. We've been using it. It's great. And like it synergizes with Day Planner. One of the things that Sked does not do is allow you to create your own events and add them to your schedule with the official events. Twitarr does, guys. Not that I'm, biased. Finally, new this year, performer bios. Sked had them, we didn't, now we do. And literally copied the data from Sked. Thanks, Sked. But if you are like us, shadow event organizers who are not on the official performer list, you too can also have a bio. So many of the performers this year who are running shadow events have their own bio. Just before us here, Tim the Virologist. You all know Tim the Virologist? Yeah. He ran a session here, and he's actually a biologist. So his bio page, I think, talks about how he actually works with viruses and knows what he's talking about. More than I do, anyway. Yeah. Finally, a few more things that Twitter does that you may not know about. All the games that are in the library, there's a list of them. You can search them for your favorite game. All the karaoke lists that's on the karaoke machine that Randy Purcell? Brings on the boat are there. So if you're into karaoke, you can check to see if the song you want to sing is on the karaoke box. Micro karaoke, this is a dumb feature that I wrote last year. That's a lot of fun. You say you want to do micro karaoke in Kraken. Sorry, it's iOS only right now. Micro karaoke, you get told what song you're going to sing and one line of that song, and you sing it into your phone. And then sometime later, you get a music video that you're in. Puzzle hunts, made by our new contributor Torgan this year. And I only know my Torgan. His actual name is Dan. Dan Rosar. Sorry. Oh, Dan. Hi. I've never met you, Dan. Hi, Dan. Nice to meet you. Thank you for this feature. Because I'm going to use you to say, guys, Dan just decided he wanted to do this thing, and he did it, and he contributed code, and Twitter is better for it. Thank you so much. And so we'll get into that when we get to the call to action part. Finally, there's deck maps. And if you're using Kraken and using the deck map, and everyone knows how the deck map works, there's nothing to that feature. Unless you want to search for a room or where one of the restaurants are, or even a specific suite, you can search for it, and some very cool PDF parsing code finds where that is on the PDF of the ship and points an arrow to that room. So use that feature, if you don't know where things are on the boat yet, to find out where you're supposed to be, for things like this event, which is, I don't even know what room this is.
The Explorer's Lounge.
Of course it is.
Can't do that.
All that stuff is stuff that was mostly on the website. But the native apps, Kraken and Tricordarr, have even more features. Grant Coho, who I introduced before, does Tricordarr. He'll be on in a sec to tell you about how cool it is. I write Kraken, so in addition to working on the server, I write the iOS app. Very happy with it. The important thing to understand is that the apps have lighter mode. Thank you. Yes, there's lighter mode. Lighter mode is the best feature. It is the most awesome feature. Please use it. When we are in main stage and they sing a Torque song, please use lighter mode because it is awesome. I cannot tell you how much joy it brings me personally to turn around in main stage and see hundreds of y'all using my dumb feature. So it's in Tricordarr as well, but the lighter in lighter mode is a Zippo lighter that I ordered from Amazon, and then when it came in, I was like, okay, I'm going to write the feature now. It took me 3 hours to write that whole feature, and 2 hours of it was me driving around looking for lighter fluid. That feature was a complete nothing feature, and it brings me so much joy. Thank you so much to everyone who uses it when Jonathan Colton thinks, a slow song. Okay, I'm going to pass it to you now for Tricordarr.
Sounds good.
So the Tricordarr Android app started as a somewhat booze-encouraged moment in the lead up to 2023, where I was sad that I didn't have a native app being an Android user, and I got bored one night and sat down and started tinkering around. And it was a little janky, but it eventually turned into the product that it is today. I do want to give a special shout out to my friend Ben Centra, who is an expert in React and answered all of my initial questions. Thank you very much, Ben. Everyone else is better for it.
No problem.
So the Tricordarr app itself is actually just React Native TypeScript. That is something I kind of experimented with. The big things are, again, PhotoStream, being able to contribute photos to that. Having a kind of very Google-esque material-based native UI, so it kind of feels very similar to all of the other Android apps. Push notifications. Push notifications is a big struggle in our environment. When you are on an internet-connected device out in the world, it's trivial. Both Apple and Google host major infrastructures for consuming apps to deliver push notifications to your device. You may, as you've been walking around the ship, gotten push notifications out from the world, and unless you have an internet package that you've paid for, you can't see or do anything about them. And the reason for that is because the Holland America Navigator app uses those same services. The Twitarr server is literally a box in the ship's data center, data closet today. And without having access to the internet, so we cannot rely on those services. So both Chall and I in the apps have to get a little clever with how to implement getting push notifications, and so both of the apps enable you to have that through a persistent WebSocket that gets open in a background worker for all of the developers here. The last thing is, a special thing with Tricordarr is kind of native integrations with the moderation tools. So both apps allow you to report any content to the moderation team, but in Tricordarr there's certain buttons within the various features that if you are a moderator and you have the moderator feature role enabled, then you can go to the mod tools for that piece of content specifically just within the app, which is makes at least Simca's life a little bit easier, I hope.
And thanks for that, because Kraken does not have that. If you're a moderator, sorry, you have to use the web, because... Okay. All right. Next, Kraken, the app that I write. Again, photo stream. You can only post a photo stream in the native apps. The web does not have a post feature, and there's reasons for this, and we don't need to go into that. The micro karaoke feature that I talked about is only available in Kraken right now. We're hoping to add it to Tricordarr next year, but try it. Try it out. It's fun. Sing into your phone and see what happens. Kraken Talk. I wrote a thing that allows for real-time person-to-person, boat to same boat live communication, where you can tap on someone else's thing, their phone rings, it makes a ringing sound, then they can pick up the other device, and then you two can talk real-time to each other. This is a new feature, and so for the young kids in the audience, you may not have ever used anything like this ever. But yeah, it's there. You can use it. You need to be friends with the person you're talking to, but if you want to call them, you probably are. But you need to friend each other in the app before it'll let you do phone calls to each other. Oh, did I say phone calls? I'm not supposed to. And finally, the second coolest feature, the augmented reality pirate selfies. You may have seen some users have a picture of themselves in a pirate hat as their user. Pirate selfies are in the app, so when you take pictures, you can add hats in real time. Please do so. Please set up your user with a pirate hat. It gives me joy, at least, and it should give you joy. And if you post pictures to the forums in pirates hats, that's also cool. Next, internals. For those of you who are thinking, boy, this talk is too nerdy, sorry. It's going to get nerdier. And I'm going to pass it over to Grant again to talk about, a whole bunch of packages.
So, as you may have guessed based on my DevOps shirt, and if you read my bio, I am a site reliability engineer, DevOps person out in the real world. And this is kind of how I started with the project. In late 2021, was looking for something to do with my copious free time. And was like, oh, I wonder if Twitarr needs some DevOps support. And the answer was, oh yes. So I slid into Dustin's pull request box with Docker support for the V3 server and also the entire deployment engine. So we mentioned earlier that there's a server that gets physically loaded onto the ship and stored and connected to their network. That is done in partnership with the Home Office, who is our liaison to Holland America. So they facilitate the communications that start as early as October for project planning. If any of you have worked in IT project management, it can take time to get things, especially when you're, from Holland America's perspective, you're bringing a computer into our data, into our network. There's certain things that need to be addressed there. And so the entire thing is basically just a Linux box that runs a whole bunch of containers of the various supporting services.
It's a Windows box that runs a Linux VM. It's a Windows box that runs a Linux VM, and that Linux VM runs a bunch of containers.
Oh my god.
Glenn, who's normally the keeper of the server, works for Microsoft, and so we had to at least keep something in there. But yeah, so the critical pieces here that I always like to espouse are the Ingress API layer, which runs a tool called Traffic. This is a very useful API routing tool, particularly for containerized environments. If any of you deal with Kubernetes a lot, it's a wonderful Ingress controller. And that just handles all of our incoming web requests and any filtering or the other extraneous tooling services that we have with Twitarr itself. actual app server is the Swift and Vapor runtime, and then under the hood, Postgres for persistent data, and Redis for kind of some quick access, select star type queries and other things like that.
Notifications.
As well as, yeah, and for notification storage. In a little bit of a story, in the first sailing was in 2022 with this code base. And at the time, the Swift language did not quite have full concurrency protections, or threading concurrency protections available at compile time. So you were kind of left to make sure that you are thread safe. And that ended up actually getting us into a struggle with one of the data structures within the app, and the app would just crash constantly. And fortunately, the thing that really kind of saved us from having a dead-on arrival server was Docker has a concept of a restart policy, where if the process in the container dies, it will automatically restart it. And that at least kept us up for a minute or two before we hit the concurrency problem and crashed again. Fortunately, nowadays, and as recently as Swift version 6, you get all of those kind of threading concurrencies for free at compile time, and so that has increased the stability of the platform significantly.
I wanted to talk about that. By the concurrency stuff, what we mean is that if you write code where a data structure might get passed between threads, the compiler says no, don't do that. It could crash. it's much better now. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the Vapor Twitarr is their name for the app itself. Swift is a somewhat odd choice for a server platform. I know. I'm an iOS developer first, so I like it. But yeah, a bunch of professional web developers are like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know."
I think it was also picked in some sense to learn Swift too.
I think yes,
That's why
yeah.
Will had originally played with it. Was just,
Truthfully, it's working great for us.
it's really good.
It's so fast.
So on not great hardware, we're getting over 1,000 requests per second. Also, memory use
It's like nothing.
is nothing. So Swift has it's not garbage collected.
Right.
It deletes memory as soon as it realizes that you can't use it anymore, and it figures it all out at compile time. So stuff is freed as soon as it descopes, and it's freed by, well, essentially a bunch of wrappers around free. I mean, it's, but so without garbage collection, memory use goes way down. And so it's very fast and really light on memory. That part's been great. The server has a robust API layer. Everything goes through API. There's maybe a couple small things that the web layer communicates directly with things, but we've written it so that we need to split it out into two apps and put them on different servers, big boys who have enough traffic to be on more than one server. Yeah, we can. It's written that way on purpose because we were, when I was in Grandune, like the whole idea was we're going to write stuff that will work for native apps first, and then make it also work for the web. I don't know how many people work at companies that had been web first and then decided that mobile apps might be a thing, but boy, they were web first, and our front end is using the Leaf templating engine. We are totally fine with the idea that this is not a good way to go, because I didn't know what I was doing and Leaf was there. It works fine, it's fast, but certainly if someone wanted to write a React front end, we'd add it. And we are fine with having multiple front ends, for the web, for web access, and what we envision, I think, would be two completely different front end ways to access the whole thing. So, any RAG people in the audience? Yeah, looking at you. The current front end has a small amount of JavaScript, but it's probably 500 lines. It doesn't really do very much. It's mostly there, to handle forms and stuff like that. It's not real JavaScript work. But if someone really wanted to do it, hey, it's there. And so on that note, look, there's 4 of us, and there's a whole lot more stuff that we'd like to do than we can do ourselves. And so this is the part of the talk where we talk to all the developers in the audience, which apparently is most of you, and say, if you're looking for something fun to do with all of your extra time, when you're not on a cruise, please, we would love to have you. We would love to have you contribute things, and it will make Twitarr better, and that's better for everyone. And it's also super fun. I've really enjoyed working on it and then coming here and deploying it and seeing everyone use it, and we all do, and we'd love to have you join us.
How long are your sprints?
1 year! 51 weeks. At the start of the sprint, we do a stand-up. And then there's a burn down that lasts 51 weeks, and it goes from 1,000 things to do to 1,000 things to do.
Actually, that's not entirely true. There's a burnout.
Burnout.
For about 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
Then the rest.
And then at the end of the sprint, we have our retrospective, which involves a large number of wang-wangs. All right. So now we get to the questions. Yes. Okay.
So a little bit of practical things on how to contribute. In the JoCo Cruise Discord, we have a Twitarr channel. We also have a private channel called Twitarr Dev. Once you get involved with a team and start contributing, you could get an invite to that Twitarr Dev channel. It's just some things, like discussions with home office, we don't really want being public, so we have those there. We have a GitHub organization called JoCo Social. All of the code for the server, we've got a lot of DevOps stuff in there. We've got, are the mobile apps both in there?
They are. Kraken is not up to date.
Okay,
I should
so
push Kraken,
yeah. The mobile apps are hosted in there as well. Join the GitHub org. We've got issues for issue trackers. Our big to-do lists that only seem to grow. If you see one that you think you could work on, grab it, throw up a pull request, we'll look at it, merge it. Your code will be running on boat. We would love it. So yeah, back to Chall.
Okay, so I figured that you all would have some questions, and so I know that specifically there are several people here who came to this talk specifically to troll Grant. So now is your chance. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, right in the back.
How do you test for the kind of poor network activity that we have here when you're at home?
So,
Repeat the question.
Oh, okay. So he's asking, how do we test for poor connectivity when we're actually, in an environment like our homes where we have good connectivity? First, you haven't been to my home, sir. But no. So I used a fuzzer when I was doing, error testing stuff and the load testing. Grant probably has. You want to talk about this? You've got more.
So for testing Tricordarr, the answer is generally I don't. I've been able to simulate it a little bit by taking my phone out into the world, and if the background worker continues to run and stay connected, then that's generally a good thing. At least for a lot of the more WebSocket-driven operations, a lot of that is a library that I found on the internet that does some auto-reconnecting magic. And so a lot of that's kind of left down to the phone TCP/IP stack to reconnect the socket if it detects it's disappeared.
And then one thing I've done for testing, at least in a similar-ish network environment where you don't have the internet available, is I'll run the server on my computer, I'll get my phone on my home Wi-Fi, and I'll unplug the cable, the WAN cable from my router, just to isolate my own network and piss off my wife.
I want to add something. Also, if you think this is a bad network, you really don't know what it's been like before now.
Oh my god.
You know, there were huge issues of, well, the first year there was an issue where the ARP table was only 255 deep, and so like everyone just kept knocking each other off and having to reconnect and all that. It was madness. Eventually they wised up, and it got better, but there's only so much they can do in a place like this. But I don't know what they've done over the last few years of like when they redid all the networking and all that kind of stuff, but honestly it's a pretty good network considering we're in a giant metal thing.
Yeah, very true. You're right. Comment on the ship stuff. Oh, yeah, go.
Yeah, so regarding the ship network, the New Amsterdam was in dry dock for about a month towards the end of 2023 for a number of upgrades, physically in a lot of accessibility, but also a complete overhaul of the network infrastructure. As Ben mentioned, the ARP table issues in their firewall cluster had been a problem for us in the past. Part of that upgrade was replacing those with the same size of gear across the entire fleet, which is now geared more for their Starlink access. And so it is infinitely more capable. They replaced, you'll notice, Aruba access points much more frequently. They're all Wi-Fi 6 enabled, and the connectivity around the ship has improved drastically from what it was even as recently as the 2023 sailing.
So let's see. I wanted to comment on the first part of this, which is that I ran my network reliability test once because my concern was making sure the server would react well when there were a lot of drop connections. So I was load testing it and then dropping out and making sure that it didn't really confuse the server, that everybody went away. And that seemed fine. As recently as 2 years ago, we had it wasn't ARP table issues exactly, but there was like a thing that had a 3,000 device limit, and with 2,000 people on the boat, we hit it. This really confused Holland America because somehow this meant that everyone had more than one device, and they could not figure that out. They are not used to that happening. Okay. Other questions? Anyone else have a question? Yes.
So you said at one point that you are handling 1,000 requests a second. How is that possible with 2,000 people on the boat? Is everybody else checking Twitarr once every 2 seconds?
So, no. We are actually, sorry, I'm going to repeat the question first. He asked us about the 1,000 requests a second thing. So that was when we were doing load testing. So I'm running a script that does a representative sample of all the API calls, including calls that fail, including login attempts that fail, like all this, sort of trying it to be all across the API. And it's a big Python script. It runs them all and hammers the server, and it continues hammering the server until it falls over, and it falls over at about 1,000 RPS. I think Grant can talk to this better than I, but I think that we top out at about 80 on the server, so we have headroom. So yeah, if you have something that you want to do that uses a whole lot of server time, we may have headroom for you. Don't plan on chewing up all of our cycles though. Yes, so it's and that's sort of what I was saying, is that the server is capable of much more load than we're currently using with 2,000 people. Hey guys, yeah, bigger boat, JPSD. Let's get a bigger boat. Yes.
So back when we were on the Ruby server, Ruby is much more memory intensive, much more CPU intensive. We often were not able to handle the 80 requests per second. We topped out around 50 or so before it would start getting hairy. And very thankful for the new version of the app to give us the ability to actually run the server in a performant way.
I mean, generally the solution for that is to just buy more servers, but that doesn't work so well.
We can't afford it.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone else? Questions? Yes.
Serious question first, joke later. Do you have any, so 80 requests per second with a headroom of 1,000 feels like plenty of space, but do you have any monitoring for while it's running on the boat where you can like check the status of things?
Yeah, so questions around monitoring while we're on the ship. There is a whole bunch of instrumentation that I've deployed along with the server. So we expose a Prometheus endpoint out of the API that gives kind of some like baseline stats for just the internals of Vapor and the runtime. And then there's about 10 million other Prometheus exporters for the host around memory usage, API throughput, requests per second, those types of things. And all of those feed into a Grafana dashboard that we check every now and then, usually only if there's like a real problem. It's kind of interesting you can see the user patterns of like boat hours are generally something like 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. and then you see the drop off in the
What?
yeah.
You have to.
Oh, there was a thing that you had to click.
Click the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Look in.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. So ignore the big down box.
10 seconds. Screw y'all.
Ignore the down box because apparently I'm pulling an incorrect metric there and I haven't bothered to figure out why. But yeah, so we keep we have a ton of stats and this is just the summary dashboard. The big thing for us in the past was around API usage and like WebSocket amount or count of metrics. Look at that, no data for error rate. I love that.
No errors. That's
Exactly.
Exactly. Hooray! No more bugs. But yeah, so that's some of the instrumentation that we have. You said you had a second question?
I'll let the serious ones go around first. I'll come back.
Okay.
I think you.
Is there Rust in the Android stack somewhere?
Thank you for asking that.
Rust in the Android stack somewhere, not to my knowledge.
I saw Axum error thrown around. What? Do you know what that's from?
Yeah, so Axios error. So the under the hood, the Tricordarr app uses the Axios HTTP library as the actual engine. And so if you're seeing those, it's probably because of some overcrowded Wi-Fi or some network request failed. And I kept that string in there because it told me what was happening. Yeah.
Semi-serious question. Sky's the limit, infinite resources, features that you most want to see in the client.
Features that we most want to see in the clients.
Or just in the app, across the...
Yeah, so the big thing for me this year, I'm a selfish person. I wrote this for me. I wanted an app that I could use to improve my boat experience, and everyone gets to benefit from it as well. The biggest thing that I found that I was missing was the private events or personal calendar reminders, and that's been very helpful even just in the 2.5 so days we've been here. So that was the big okay, cool. I think, at least speaking for Tricordarr, having the real-time voice communication system is the next big feature that I would like to see in that app specifically. A lot of times for new platform features, it's one of us gets squirrely one night and it's oh, we should build this thing, and then build this thing. That the micro karaoke was kind of a fun idea that Chall had, and it was ooh, I want to build that. So that's kind of, at least from the Tricordarr perspective, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, one feature that I would like to build but haven't done yet and haven't really discussed much with the team yet is a personal stream. So on your own profile page, having the ability to post status updates of what you're doing, what you're thinking about, whatever. And giving you the ability to moderate your own status page, where people could reply to your comments and you could say, and if someone's personally trolling you, you could kick them off your page. And if it rises to a, kind of like public DMs, And if it rises to like a code of conduct violation, you could potentially report them as well. But, you know, something like that maybe could be an upcoming future. No promises.
What about ChatGPT integration?
Oh, ChatGPT integration?
We gotta do lots of AI.
We are not going to load an AI model onto the server. No.
Sorry, I was going to banter this question even more because I have a couple things that I want to do. First, I wanted to point out to everyone that one of the big things about Twitarr is that as a social media server, it's got accounts for people and logins, and so a lot of things where you have a feature you want to do, but it it requires like knowing who the people are. You have that, which was one of the things for puzzle hunts. Puzzle hunts, sort of builds on top of the user features, so that users are answering the puzzle hunts, and that's tied to your user, and so that stuff's already built, and so because of that, there's sort of a playground where you can do cool stuff. For me, one of the things I want to do is an augmented reality game that would use these sort of posters for augmented reality, where you point the phone at a known image and it can like add augmented content to it. Has anyone here played the game Return of the Obra Dinn? I want to do something like that, but in augmented reality, so that you can see an actual Kraken destroying the boat.
So we're at time.
Okay.
Give a joke.
Screw it. No.
Give a joke.
We have. Yes.
Two things. One, threaded replies. That would be really nice. Also, I'm noticing an error, and other people have noticed it with the JoCo calendar database. Couldn't create JoCo calendar in calendar database.
I think that's a Kraken.
That may be my bug.
Okay.
And to which I apologize.
Because I can't add events to my calendar on iOS. This is an iOS thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a Kraken.
Use web to add them,
Yeah.
and then you can view them.
What's that?
Use the web.
Okay.
Use the web version to favorite them, and then you'll be able to see them on your phone.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, if that's not working, I don't know why. But yeah, no, later. Okay, and you have a joke question.
This question is for Grant. What's your favorite Material UI component and why?
Honestly, my favorite Material UI component has got to be the drawer, just because it's magical and like comes out of nowhere, and like I can just like slide everything around. It's not exactly the most useful, but like you just put it away when you're done.
Thank you.
One last plug for we do have Twitarr team office hours today, 1:30 to 2:30, somewhere in the Seaview Pool area. If you or someone you know needs some help with their Twitarr account or bug or things like that, some combination of us will be around there somewhere. And that's today, 1:30, Seaview Pool area.
Or just come by to chat with more questions or to talk to us.
That too.
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming.